This episode of I Work For Him is sponsored by SaferNet, Patriot Mobile, and the U.S. Christian Chamber 2026 Expo, found online at swc2026.com, code I Work For Him. You've tuned into I Work For Him, the voice of collaboration for the faith and work movement. And I'm your host, Jim Brangenberg. Our mission is to inspire every workplace believer to recognize their workplace as their ministry place, where they work with God every day. What can that look like in your workplace? Well, let's find out right now. How powerful is it to be surrounded by people who want more? They want more Jesus. They want more power. They want more kingdom strategy, and they want all that for their businesses and organizations they run. Where do you go to find that room? The room full of people who want the same thing for the same reasons, with the same humble heart for bringing the kingdom of God to earth through business. I don't know all the places, because I know that if there's one in Tampa Bay, Florida, there are likely thousands around the globe. This one room is a room hosted by Todd Hopkins of the Strategic Thinking Network. Now, Todd's name may sound familiar because he's appeared on this show a few dozen times, including hosting several of our live radio shows while we're on the air in Tampa Bay. Todd is the founder, now retired CEO of Office Pride Commercial Cleaning Services. Todd loved investing in the hearts and minds of each of his franchisees, and has taken that passion for mentoring and sharing wisdom and has put it all together into what is now known as the Strategic Thinking Network. Todd is joining us today to tell us about how God has been moving in their meetings and how you can get involved in 2026. Todd Hopkins, welcome back to I Work For Him.
Thank you, Jim. It's always good to be here. Good to see you.
Todd, last year we did a show leading up to the launch of the Strategic Thinking Network, all the ideas you were thinking about doing, the way you thought it would pan out. I want to know is what's the most remarkable spiritual thing or event that happened in your life this past year, related to or not related to the Strategic Thinking Network?
Well, you're right. I mean, last year when we talked, this was an idea. It was something that God, I felt, had put on my heart, and I was taking a step of faith to pursue that. And really, I would say that the biggest thing that happened to me is, because I've always been one, like, I want to experience immeasurably more. And whether it was, Office Pride or the next thing. And I remember just in the transition, telling God, I said, God, I still want to experience the immeasurably more. I think you've got like that still ahead of me. And I was asking him, how do I tap into it? And it was during my quiet time one morning that God just started like showing me things that I had kind of seen before, but hadn't related to that. So, and for example, like when David talked about we were knitted together in our mother's womb, and like God had a plan for us even when he was creating us in our mother's womb. And Paul writes about it, that we're his handiwork, his craftsmanship. And so I would say the biggest lesson I learned was, and it's like God was telling me, hey, Todd, if you want me to do immeasurably more in your life, you need to quit asking me to do more with your plans and get yourself back in alignment with the ideas I had for you, the plans I had for you when I knitted you together in your mother's womb. And so my prayer life changed. I mean, I've been a believer for a long time, but my prayer life changed to asking God, what were you thinking? What was your original intent for me? And that ended up being one of the lessons I shared early on, actually, with the class. But that was something that God really shared with me just this past year.
So stop asking me to bless your plans. Would you just get on board with the plans that I have for you, the plans for you to prosper, and on what goes on in Jeremiah. All right. So last year when we talked about the launch of the Strategic Thinking Network, it was an idea. Now we're finishing up the end of the first year in your Tampa Bay group. What did you see God do in that group?
It was amazing. I mean, and it's really is kind of like this more than you can think or imagine, right? I mean, that's what the idea of Ephesians 3:20 is. And I remember just the first day with those 24, and then just how transparent they are. I mean, everybody in the room were high achievers. So I would say the biggest thing for me was seeing this multiplication effect of impact uh, kingdom impact and business impact on humble high achievers. That's the way I describe them. It's like it's a room full of high achievers, but they're humble learners. And I just loved every minute of it because I'm a learner myself. And so you know how it is, Jim, when you teach something, a lot of times you're the one that learns the most. So
Absolutely.
that was my
Unequivocally.
experience.
Yeah. And people don't know that. That's kind of like the secret. When you're teaching small group at church or whatever it may be, or your small group at home, you're going to get the most. The person who teaches always gets the most out of it because you've spent the most time. It's hands down, just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, what was the biggest? So how many people did you have in your strategic thinking network in 2025?
24.
Okay, so you had 24 people. Were they all just from Tampa Bay?
No, there were a lot from Tampa Bay area, but there was at least a third of them flew in from out of town, from different parts of the country. So we have it located at a hotel next to the Tampa airport. Makes it real easy. So, the goal is to attract a national audience for the class.
All right, so you had 24 people. Here's what I know is you're in a room with 24 people. They all have been created in God's image. They've all been running businesses or own their own businesses. What was the biggest thing that you learned from them this year?
Biggest thing I learned from them, I would say the eagerness. I mean, I love the engagement. So, what I learned is the more transparent we can be and the more vulnerable we can be in trying to understand what God has for us, then the greater the chance we're going to get the answer. And so as I would see these guys sharing, because they'll break into groups of three, and what was so valuable to them, they'll tell you, sometimes even more valuable than the teaching would be the sharing and the information that came out of their own heads, because we have tools to help them do that. And then as they shared with each other. So I learned, shut up, quit talking, let the Holy Spirit do his thing while they're in their huddles. And that's where a lot of amazing things happen.
Wow. A lesson learned by Todd Hopkins. Shut up and let the Holy Spirit do stuff. That's incredible. I mean, how often I need to learn that lesson too? Because I often talk way too much. I love that. So year one was focused on learning to be a strategic thinker with God at the center of your strategy. That's what you told me it was going to be. Did you end up going there?
Yeah, I mean, we actually went beyond strategic thinking. So the whole goal was strategic thinking. And how do you apply strategic thinking to grow your business or scale your business and your kingdom impact? But then as this was unfolding, and this was in my quiet time. I mean, listen, the great thing about this, Jim, is I feel like God provided the content. He brought the people and ultimately taught the class. I mean, I was just trying to get out of the way. But as the strategic thinking was there, and then critical thinking, can't ignore that, the importance of that. But as all this was coming together, as I may have even shared with you before, the layer, God said, wait, I'm not ready for you to get up yet. There's a third type of thinking, and that's eternal thinking. So all of a sudden, as business owners, if we will allow ourselves to go beyond just strategic, we need to do that well and critical, but then tap into the eternal and start asking questions like, what's God's will in this matter? What did he have in mind when he knitted me together in my mother's womb? All these things. Then all of a sudden we begin to expose ourselves to supernatural results, both in business and ministry. And that's what happened, Jim. I mean, it was amazing, and I got to see it.
I was having a thought like that this morning, thinking, what all the experiences I've gotten in my years on this planet, how does that apply to what God's going to have me doing in the new heaven and the new earth? How does that apply? What's my job going to be? What is my work going to look like in the new heaven and new earth? And how does that tie into what he's put me through on, or what he's had me experience here on earth? Okay, so year one was strategic thinking, critical thinking, and learning eternal thinking, but there's a year two. 2026 could be year two. What's year two all about?
Yeah, so the group, wanted to keep going. So we've now made it a 2-year program. And year two, we're going to get in more practicing the things that we've learned in year one, creating good habits, and more on execution, We'll get into casting vision and achieving vision. So we're going to take it all to a more practicing type of a level because it's easy to learn things, and then all of a sudden business and life starts happening. And then, I think one of the CEO's greatest flaws is forgetting what they've learned and to execute what they already know is the right thing to do. So we're going to get into that, but also if time allows, we'll get into branding and all kinds of good stuff. I'm pretty excited. I think year 2 is going to be better than year 1.
I bet it builds on each other. But I think you just said, that one of the biggest things that CEOs struggle with is forgetting what they learned. It's also what the Israelites struggle with, forgetting what God's already done and needing to be reminded, remember God did this? Don't forget that, because so often we get so comfortable with what's been happening and we forget, like Joshua did with the battle at Ai. Wow, this went really good at Jericho. Let's just go. We'll go attack. He never asked God, what's the strategy? What's the strategy? What's the eternal thinking here? And that doesn't work good. We need to remember what God has done and constantly be remembering that. Let's talk about how this is set up. So a lot of people that are listening today, so is this like a monthly meeting in Tampa Bay? I can't do a monthly meeting in Tampa Bay. This is different though, Todd, isn't it?
Yeah, it's once a quarter and it's in person at airport, hotel meeting room. So it's real easy for people out of town just to fly in the day before. They can do the meeting. It ends at 4. Typically they can fly out that evening or take their time and go out the next day. But it's in person once a quarter. The dates are scheduled out a year in advance, and they invest, an annual fee to be a part of that. And it's a 2-year program. I'm not sure what'll happen after the end of the second year, but I have some ideas, but we've got a really solid 2-year plan. So basically folks would be committing to 8 quarterly sessions.
Now, is there a chance you're going to take the Strategic Thinking Network to another city outside of Tampa Bay in 2026?
I think that could be possible. I feel God's leading me to do that. So we'll have a new class starting in Tampa. They'll be in year 1 in January, and then the current class will be in year 2 in Tampa. And then I do believe we will open up in another city. We'll see what God has for us, just to make it geographically, spread out a little bit.
All right. So speaking of 2026, I'm really excited about the events that are booking up for 2026. The U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce Spiritual World Citizens Expo in April is one of those events, online at swc2026.com. If you want to get a discount to attend, I totally recommend you get involved in the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce. That code for a discount to the event in April is I work, the number 4, him. I work for him. And of course, the National Faith and Work Summit, which is coming up in June, Faith at Work Summit 2026.com. It's critical that we spend time together worshiping, encouraging, and challenging each other and seeing what God's doing on a national basis. If you want more on the events that we'll be attending, Martha and I will be attending in 2026, go to iworkforhim.com/events. Todd, it's always great hearing from the founder. Hey, this is what happened. This is what God did. But you know me well enough to know that's great, Todd. I believe you. But I want to hear from some people that have experienced the Strategic Thinking Network. So I've asked you to invite a couple people in today to share their stories of the impact that God has had on their lives through the Strategic Thinking Network. Who do you have for us today?
Well, I have 2 really great guys joining us today. John Bergita from St. Louis. He's the president and founder of Hecto Group there in St. Louis. They're like technology innovation type of company. Really, they do a lot of things. So amazing young man. And then Liddell Graham from the Houston area is managing partner for Ambassador Development Group, which also just an amazing group. It's kind of like a Christian private equity, but he's involved in lots of different things. So both of those guys are going to be joining us today.
John, I didn't realize you were in St. Louis. Good grief, we're only 3.5 hours away. We should somehow find a way to get together. We're in the same state, even though the opposite ends. But Liddell and John, welcome to I Work for Him.
Great, thank you. It's great to be here.
Liddell, I'm going to start with you. Why did you choose to invest your time by attending 4 quarterly Strategic Thinking Network days? Why did you do it?
Well, one of the things that I certainly know is that strategy leaks and vision fades unless you revisit it. And so it was an opportunity for me to revisit both my strategy and my vision, and particularly in the framework of doing it God's way from a kingdom perspective. And so that's why I made the decision to be a part of strategic thinking at work.
When you decided to join, what did you expect to walk away with? When you got to the end of the year, what did you expect to walk away with?
Well, the amazing thing is that leadership is really draining, and because many times in leadership, what you're doing is solving problems. And if you don't step back to think strategically, then what happens is that you become an expert at problems rather than solutions. And so I really came expecting clarity, I was where clarity of where I was headed, and to align my daily actions with really God's purpose for our business.
So what did you actually walk away with?
The amazing thing about that is that what I saw was when faith-driven thinkers come together, something powerful happens, and that is that strategy becomes revelation. And so I walked away with a deeper sense of alignment between my faith, between my leadership and my assignment. And so I didn't really just leave with ideas. Really, I left with a revelation. And it was amazing what happened to me, and I've seen that in every facet of my life, not just in business, but every facet of my life, including family.
Liddell, one of your network mates was John Bergita out of St. Louis, Missouri. Love that. All right, so John, why did you choose to invest your time by attending 4 sessions in Tampa Bay? I understand the Tampa Bay draw, the food. I mean, the weather, but why did you, it's a big deal to get on a plane and fly. Why did you choose to invest your time by attending those 4 quarterly strategic thinking network days?
Well, it's really an answer to prayer. I've been praying for finding a group where I could learn how to expand my business as well as faith. And that even ties back to Hecto's name. It ties back to science in a multiplier of 100, like Hecto leaders, but also to scripture in Mark 4:8, and the parable of sowing seeds. And you put on good soil and they yielded 30, 60, and 100-fold. So I've been trying to align the business between business and faith and not having those be 2 separate things. And God really opened the door at the Christian Businessmen's Connection, CBMC, their annual men's conference, or was the first time they had in a long time. It was in St. Louis. That's where I met Todd and heard about the Strategic Thinking Network. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I've been praying for. And I was very excited to be in the inaugural class.
So what did you expect to walk away with? An investment of a year of time or a year in relationships. What did you expect to walk away with?
I don't think I had any concrete expectations of what I would come away with. It was more of, this is awesome content, and these are awesome people, and these are the people I want to be aligned with. And I had the chance to read Todd's book about stop using the B word, and I read that and did that. And that was impactful. I'm saying, okay, if we're able to get even just that level of things out of the class, is going to be very worthwhile.
Have you read all the rest of Todd's books? Because Todd's got a lot of great books out there. The B word one was hilarious. One day I was in the headquarters at Office Pride, and one of the people we were interviewing said busy while we were oh my word. You'd have thought that they were going to die. They were like, please don't let Todd hear me say that. All right, so that's what you expected, but what did you walk away with? At the end of the year, what did you walk away with?
I would say implementing tools. So one of the things we learned is the tool Hoshin. And now actually myself and our entire team do that every Monday when we kick off our team meetings. And Todd was talking about some of the other tools that we've learned in the class. We have kind of quarterly team summits, and we actually use the tools at our last team summit. And the entire team was like, this is the best one we've ever done. So it's been awesome.
John, I got to stop. I got to Hoshin? Everybody listening today is going, did he just say ocean? No, he
Hoshin
said
with the H.
H. Yeah. Okay. Everybody listening is going, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's a way to really sift through complicated things and really make it simple to get to priorities. So on a really simple version, you have 3 circles and you write 3 different tasks in those. And you compare one circle to just one other circle. And you say, if I could complete one of these 2 things in a given time frame. So we, for example, use it for this week. if I can complete one of these two things this week, what's the most important to advancing myself and the business towards our goal? And just draw an arrow towards the one that's most important. And then you do that one at a time for each of the different circles. And then in the end, you just count the arrows, and the ones with the highest number of arrows, that's your most important thing for the week. And then your second most important. And so it's given the clarity to say no to things that are lower on that list. And also to know once I accomplish those top things on that list, even if the rest of the week is crazy, it's been a productive and fruitful week.
How do you spell Hoshin?
Hoshin. And yes, I thought he said ocean too the first time I heard it. It's not spelled out.
All right. So, Liddell, you said strategy gives way to revelation, or actually what breeds revelation. What did you say? I can't read my own writing as I was writing it while you're saying that. But basically that God reveals things through strategy. What did God reveal to you? What was the biggest surprise of the year coming out of your time that you invested? Because you invested literally a week's worth of time this year to be part of the Strategic Thinking Network. What was the biggest surprise God did in your life?
I think that the biggest surprise for me was there were some things that I've been working on, and I invested time for years, and it produced almost immediately what I had been working on and spent years working on, focusing on rather. What was interesting to me is I thought I needed more strategies, but really God showed me that I really needed was spiritual alignment. And so Todd talks about strategic thinking. There are three types of thinking: strategic thinking, critical thinking, and eternal thinking. And I was pretty good. My background, investments, my accounting, I was really good at strategic and critical, but not as strong in eternal thinking. And so what happened is that it moved everything to another level. And one of the things that really stood out to me, everything in every class is amazing. We walk away just amazed. One of the things that stood out was a resource allocation maximizer. And so we've got all of these. Every business have resources, and you don't want non-performing resources. And so we all kind of like put on the whiteboard various resources. And the amazing thing, I was looking, I go, wow, there are some things that I have not been using. And we all thought we had it figured out. We had identified everything. And then Todd comes behind and he says that you guys didn't include my greatest resource, which is energy. And he talks about how energy is a maximizer of other resources. And so I taught that we get our ADG leaders together annually. And so elements of this class, I taught that, and we're actually practicing that in our ADG advances on a monthly basis. So that was one of the things that really I took away, that really, as it says, that he go beyond what you can dream. And he blew my mind.
I love that. And I love how it applied to ambassador development. But I want to know, for you personally, what was the biggest surprise in your heart? What did you see the biggest impact on your soul after attending these? Because that's what this is about. I mean, it's great to run great businesses and organizations. It's great to make money. It's great to bless our employees and their families and our customers and our vendors. But you're making this investment to be a transformed man. What was the biggest surprise of transformation in your life, Liddell?
Yeah, I think what personally was the biggest transformation was when I talked about alignment. I began to see how things were connected that I didn't realize were connected, like dreams, relationships, opportunities that had been sitting on the table all along. So we have a weekly family meeting, and all of our children are adults. And in our meeting this past Sunday, one of our children said to me, "Dad, I've recognized that this year that there's been a significant change in how you approach life, how you approach relationships." And he talked about how effective I am and how compassionate I was and how even more God-centered I was. And you know what? To have that come from your adult children really blesses me, simply because what we want to do is we want to teach them how to get along without us. And if they can walk away with that, God-centered, in the decisions, the dreams, the relationships that I have, I think that this has been a really great one walk away.
That was powerful. I'm glad I re-asked that question. Are you going to do year 2?
Oh, absolutely. How can I not? I mean, year one changed how I think, and honestly, it changed how I hear God. And so it really reminded me that strategy isn't just about planning the future, but it's about partnering with God for it. And so, absolutely, I'm excited about it. In the words that I say so often, I'm ready to go bear hunting with the switch.
I'm not, but okay. Yeah.
Well, David went with his bare hands. And so that's the kind of faith I have in what God's going to do in year 2.
I think he had a sling. David had a sling, not a switch, a sling. All right. But Liddell, thank you for being transparent, Liddell, because that's what I was looking for, because I know that a year invested by say, Lord, here you go. Here's 4 days. I'm a busy business guy. Here's 4 days. I don't want to be the same guy at the end of this period of time. And that's what God did for you. John, what was the biggest God surprise for you coming out of the year that you invested at Strategic Thinking Network?
I think one of the biggest surprises was one of the tools we learned was the inverted pyramid. So instead of starting from today and looking forward to the future, really centering yourself in who you are as a son or daughter of God, and then working down through that. And it was fascinating for me because I had done 3-year planning, 10-year planning, big, hairy, audacious goals. We had the vision, mission, and core values of the business, but I didn't stack them all like that. And so actually, when I came out from the second meeting, the first one I missed because of the birth of my now 9-month-old son, who's a just wonderful little boy. So I attended the first one, which was the second session, and it was just so powerful coming away with that I actually stopped at a Breadco for those in St. Louis, or Panera for everyone else around the country, and just kind of cleared out a whole table and just sat down and wrote out that inverted pyramid. And it was really powerful just to see kind of the things I already knew and known in prayer, but I never written them down to line them like that. So I've since turned it into kind of a visual I'm eventually going to get on my wall to look at when I'm doing planning, or just remind myself that keep looking through this funnel and I'll be able to work productively versus getting too stuck in minutia here and not going where God wants me to be going.
John, Liddell shared how his son noticed a difference in him. Talk to me about what comments your wife has made for you after being involved in a Strategic Think Network, because obviously she had a baby on the first day, and so it kind of you didn't get to experience first day. Talk to me about has your wife made any comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's been beautiful to come back and share with her the things I've learned. And, we've even used some of the improvements to that for how we run our family meetings. So that's really inspiring to hear you talk about Liddell with your adult children. My oldest is 8, so we've got some ways to go with that. But yeah, just even some of the ways we've used it to improve how we plan and communicate as a family has been really beautiful. So she's super supportive of it. And one of these trips I'll have to have her join me, and we'll get some time in the water or sun while we're down there.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Are you doing year 2 then? So that makes it sound like you're going to do year 2.
Yes, absolutely. I was very hopeful there would be year 2. So when Todd said yes, I was one of the first people to shoot my hand up and say, I'm in.
You didn't even have to ask, why should I? You're like, I already know the answer why.
I already know the answer why. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to take all of this in a year, absorb it, and then put it into practice. And it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's like, I want to start improving it and implementing it immediately. But also, just as Todd was talking about, being able to then implement it and keep refining it, but then also to then have it so ingrained where I can then bring it to my coworkers and my business and family. I'm really excited for that continued growth next year.
I asked the question, why? Why are you going to do year 2? We should always ask ourselves questions more often. Why do we need to protect our computers? Why do we need to protect ourselves from evil? Why do bad people do bad things? Well, I don't always know the why, but I do know the what we can do to protect ourselves. SaferNet is the software we use. I work for him and personally to protect all of our devices at home and at the office. Their VPN coupled with virus protection, website protection, internet filters, website filters, antivirus, all of it designed to keep the bad guys out and keep your devices up and running as fast as they can run. Check them out at safernet.com. They're a Kingdom company. Just let them know that I Work for Him sent you. You know, as we close out, I want, Todd, I'll pull you back into the conversation. You said there's 24 people in year one. If we were to poll everybody, and we're going to poll these two guys here in a second, if we were to poll everybody and say, I wish the group would be smaller, I wish the group would be bigger, how would you feel? But Todd, how powerful, it wasn't just your teaching that God had given you, how powerful was that interaction of men and women in that room to the success of the Strategic Thinking Network in year one?
It was extremely powerful. I was advised early on by a friend that who we have in that class is going to matter. And so I feel like there's a huge responsibility to try to even bet in some way, who are people who are high achievers, who are already successful, who are learners, and they're humble and can contribute to each other. And these guys are already strategic, actually. They're already, they rank very high strategically on their Strength Finders profile, majority of them. So it's very important who's in the room, and that's a responsibility that I have to try to do a good job. And I just pray God sends me the right one. I mean, God sent the people, and I think everyone sensed that, but I heard that often. Man, the people you have in this room are amazing, and they say that about each other.
Liddell, talk to me about that impact. Being in a room with 23 others plus Todd, how powerful was that interaction to the success of the learning, the success of the experience?
What I like about the class is that, immediately when you get the revelation, you put it into practice. So there were groups, we would break out into groups of 3, 4 people, and then you would share what you've worked through relative to that particular session. It was powerful because when I say that you have faith-driven thinkers, it turns strategy into revelation. And that's what kept coming to me. I started getting revelation after revelation, and then I could go back and refine my practical approach to what Todd had shared in the class.
What about for you, John? How powerful was that? You're not the only one in the room, but it wasn't just you and Todd. It's you, Todd, and 23 other people. How powerful was that interaction, those relationships that you're developing over the year?
It's incredible because you get different perspectives and things that you aren't seeing. And even when Todd was putting up, like, what are your different, strengths and assets you already have, just seeing like everyone compiling it, the list was incredible. And I think if any of us had tried to sit down, just write all those out ourselves,
right,
we would have come anywhere close to that. And so, yeah, it's beautiful to see like-minded individuals who are striving for excellence in their work, excellence in their personal life, and aligning that with their faith versus saying, hey, it's a separate from that. It's also been really encouraging to see the use of AI and how we've had kind of like AI talks over lunch and kind of dessert during the lunch period, and seeing where like we can use some of these tools like AI to not only just improve our businesses, but to free up more time for us to have in prayer or to have with family. And so it's, we're aligning all these kind of, again, with the whole person in mind versus saying, hey, go and be excellent at business and then, go donate after that. It's like, no, align all these things together. So yeah, seeing similar individuals in that same walk is very powerful.
And AI can be a help, but it can't do the kind of stuff that the Holy Spirit does. So all of you, Todd Hopkins, Liddell Graham, John Bergita, thank you guys for sharing the story. Todd, thanks for bringing the Strategic Network to the I Work for Him listening audience. If people are listening today, they're thinking, I want to get involved in next year, whether it's in Tampa Bay or whether you end up starting a group in another city across the country. Todd, how do people get involved? How do they start that application process?
Yeah, thank you. The best way is just to go to strategicthinkingnetwork.com, and it's all there. There's an application, a short application. There's a way to contact me, but that would be the place to start, strategicthinkingnetwork.com.
And of course, you've heard the stories here. So if you are a business owner, leader, male or female, this is not just a men's group. I need to emphasize this. Today we only had men, but it doesn't, there are men and women involved. So check it out. If God is asking you to go deeper, then go ahead and go deeper And check out the strategicthinkingnetwork.com. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Be here.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to I Work for Him with your host, Jim Brangenberg. I'm a Christ follower. My workplace, it's my mission field. But ultimately, I work for Him. This episode of I Work for Him is sponsored by SaferNet.com, PatriotMobile.com/I Work for Him, and the U.S. Christian Chamber 2026 Expo, found online at SWC2026.com, code I Work for Him.
Thanks for listening to the I Work for Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work for Him Nation, and to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. While you're there, check out the Tapestry database, a growing directory of faith and work organizations. You can also follow us on social media at I Work for Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's I Work for Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, the number 4, him.com.